You know, last week I was at the beach, had a great time with my family, and I brought home some things to share in this arrangement with you. So welcome, friends, to another episode of whatever it is that we're doing here. Blossoms and Bourbon. My name is Mark. I'm the owner here at Creative Vacations. Pleasure to have you here. So yeah, this is going to be a beach-themed arrangement. I was at the beach last week with my family. Had a great time there. You know, it's really hard to screw up a beach vacation, honestly. So I was kind of pilfering around and scavenging and found some things that I thought I'd bring back and do a beach-themed arrangement. First of all, I want to thank Lisa for this amazing bottle. It's from the Lost Whiskey Club. This is actually bottled in Virginia here. One of the really cool things I do remember about this bottle, because I have tasted some of their product before, they have this little leather strap that comes across the top of the bottle. And on the leather strap, there are the numbers 119 and 255. And 119 is the barrel that this bottle came from. 255 is the story number. And this particular company is all about telling stories and about sharing a pour with your friends and creating great stories and great memories. And I think that's pretty cool. So let's get started with a sip. It's a good one. Cheers. Nice. All right, so one of the things I brought home is this is part of the trunk of a palm tree. And it was beside the house where we stayed. And I don't know, it was just kind of half hanging off the ground. And I thought, you know, I probably should take that. I think I may have even done an arrangement with one last year, kind of a similar sort of thing. I'm trimming the foam a little bit so that this kind of has a nice place to rest. I am leaving the foam sticking up a little bit because I want some insertions that go in the foam. I also chose a beautiful white plain ceramic container because I don't want the container to take away from the arrangement. I want the container to kind of contribute to it. And I don't know, this white ceramic just seems beachy to me. So there you go. Trim a little bit of this edge off so I don't have quite as much to hide. Yep, I think this is going to work fine. What I'm going to do, I think, as a way to kind of anchor this end of this kind of palm thing here, is use anchor tape. This is the same tape that we've used before that's green when we're putting foam into an arrangement. And typically with the foam, you want to use the green because you want it to be hidden, right? But in this case, since we have a white container, I thought it might be good to use the white. I'm just going to kind of wrap that around that piece of palm bark and just attach it to the top of the ceramic container. Make sure that's not going to go anywhere. And I think I'm going to try, we'll see if this works. I'm not sure if it will, honestly. I'm going to do part of one of the U-glue dashes or sticky strips on the other end of this just to hold this down to the container on this end. So let's see if that works. I've cut them from the original size, which is about 3 inches long, into a little bit smaller strips. Put it right on the container, just pull the backing off. I'm gonna kind of lay it over on itself a little bit and then see if it'll stick right down there. All right, I've got enough flowers in this. I think it'll work just fine. So I already like the line of this. That's one of the things I thought about when I picked this up, is it's gonna have amazing line. I have some tropical foliage. These are monstera leaves. If you're doing kind of a beachy themed arrangement, you got to have product that kind of reminds you of the beach, right? This foliage is one that we don't often have here at the shop. It's called Calathea. And it too is a more tropical foliage. I think will work beautifully for this. So just those couple of insertions, you already get a sense of the line. I'm already starting to cover up mechanics, especially with that monstera leaf. That's one of those things I love so much about it. And if we want to do an insertion through that monstera leaf, you just take your knife, make a little hole right in there, and the flower will go right through. So this was another really interesting thing that I scavenged off that tree. And this is one of the mature ones where all the berries had fallen off. But when it was active, it had berries like this that were hanging on it. There was a tree adjacent to it that still had the berries on it. So I grabbed some of these because I love those berries, love the texture of that. But I also loved the texture of this. So I'm going to see if I can kind of work that into the arrangement as well. Yeah, that should be interesting. All right, I'm going to take a little bit of this green antique hydrangea. Again, just as kind of a means to kind of cover up some mechanics here. The antique hydrangeas have these little spots and variations in their color. This one is starting to actually deteriorate a bit. It's got some little brown spots on it. Personally for this, I love that. I think that's going to be a really nice addition because it's going to pull in all the browns in this palm. Now, one thing I'm not quite sure about is the attachment of the shells. I wanted to put a few shells in just kind of as a nod to the beach, obviously. So that one, I just kind of crammed it in there. So the foam is going to hold that in place. I'll probably try something similar over on this side. That seems to be working. I don't know how successful it would be to use sticky strips or sticky dots, you know, if you wanted to position these a little bit differently. But we had to have seashells, right? This is one of those things that if you're putting those in, you get one shot. So yeah, where it goes is where it stays. You really don't have an opportunity to kind of move it around and change that up. So I did tell Jason prior to starting tonight that I really didn't have a specific plan for this arrangement. It was just kind of develop on screen. So bear with me. Okay, that does look like something under the sea, doesn't it? That, you know, the little tendrils of that. We're going to use a little green trick. This, as you remember, is part of the dianthus family. It's also great for covering up mechanics in something like this. And that works beautifully for that. I don't know, this is hidden really well over here. I don't know that we need it over on this side. So, and not only is it hiding the foam, but it's kind of making like a little bit of a cushion for that seashell there. Let's see if we can get these guys in. What will make this easier is a little bit of, we all get by with a little help from our friends, all right? So we're going to use a Koi pick, which is this treated green pick. I'm going to just take a very thin wire and wrap the wire around the Koi pick and the stem of this berry that came off the palm tree. And what that's going to do is that Koi pick is now going to stabilize this, which is a little bit bendy. And I was kind of worried that it might be a little too bendy for what I wanted to do. So I'm just going to poke that right in. I'm going to slide that in until we can't see that Koi pick anymore. And then we've got that great line with those berries in there. You know, I do find, all kidding aside, when I'm at the beach, I am so relaxed. It's one of those places that I can just, you know, put business away, I can put work away and be completely relaxed. It's a great place for me. Where is that place for you? Is there a place that you can go? Is it the mountains? Do you feel that way when you're in the mountains? Do you also feel that way when you're at the beach or at the shore? I would love to know that. Let's chat about that. It's important to do that, I think. It's important to get away and kind of recharge. And that's one of the things I think is so cool about this, is even while I was there and being completely relaxed, I could still be inspired for work. Does that make sense? So it wasn't really like thinking about work, but I could be inspired by work, which is awesome. So I get to share that with you guys now. So thinking about that and about where a place is that relaxes you or that inspires you, the next time you're at that place, whatever it is, think about a flower arrangement. What would that look like? What would using materials that you might find there, wherever you happen to be, and how would that translate into florals? Because all designers get their inspiration from somewhere. You know, you can go in a museum and be certainly inspired by museum pieces, by the artwork that's there, the sculptures and statues. What does that look like for you? Now, I've got a little bit of foam right here that I need to hide, and I'm not particularly happy with this Gerber, so let's trim him down a little bit. So, if you have a Gerber daisy like this, and this one doesn't particularly have any damage on it, but if one of the petals is damaged or missing or whatever, you can simply pull the petals out, and what will happen is it will leave that fun little center section. Isn't that cool? Just that little dark eye. And so that's kind of what I had going on over here with this one. Going to use the old knife trick in the Monstera leaf and make an opening for this guy and put him in. So we have two of them that are kind of stair-stepped out like that. I do love when you can sort of edit the form of a flower like that and completely change the look of it. You know, I always say there's a point at which you should stop, and sometimes knowing that is as important as anything. So, are we going too far here? Do we need just one more of these, maybe? Maybe just one more? That was what it needed. It was good. I brought some of this Johnson grass because this reminded me of like sea oats that are growing in the dunes along the beach. So I don't want to get it too busy with this. So I'll just cut a few of these and kind of tuck them in. All right, there we go. I feel good about that. Homage to the beach. And interestingly, I didn't necessarily want to put blue in this either. I thought at first I wanted blue flowers. And then I thought, no, I want to keep this really sort of natural, all green and white. So please, in the comments, let me know what you think about this. As always, be sure to like the video, hit that little bell icon so that you'll be notified of when we post new content, and make comments. I love reading your comments. I love knowing where you're from. I especially want to know, where is your happy place? You know, where do you like to go when you're just completely relaxed and at peace with yourself? This has been fun. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Until next time, cheers to you and to flowers every day. Thanks so much for joining.